It's the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. A Beatles fan's paradise. It's Beatles-A-Rama. Tune in. You'll love it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. We're going to do another Beatles Preferences show here. This will be the fifth in the series. It's a real fun idea where I invite my guests to list which songs that I give them as choices they prefer to listen to, songs or albums, Beatles or solo. And since there's a wealth of great material, it's not easy to pick which they prefer in the two or three songs that I present in this show or albums. And I thought I would invite the guys from Hands Across the Water podcast to play a part of it. This show has been on, is it a year now?
Yeah, just about. Just about.
Okay.
Next month it'll be a year. Yeah.
Okay. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And
Where's the cake?
It's coming. I'll mail it to you.
Yeah.
Might take a while, but I'll mail it to you.
Yeah.
So the three co-hosts of the show are Andy Nicholes, that you know from the Two Legs podcast. And also we have Beatly Tone, who has his own YouTube channel, very popular. It's been going on for how many years?
About 4 years.
Okay.
It probably feels longer to everyone else.
Don't say that.
But it is only 4 years, yeah.
Well, you've got quite an audience, as does Two Legs. So, keep building and building them.
Thank you.
And we also have Kyle Hand, who is the new phenom in the Beatle world. He represents the younger generation. Actually, part of the whole idea of Hands Across the Water is to have three co-hosts of different ages, couple of decades apart, maybe. But Kyle is a welcome addition to the show, and I've known him for a few years, meeting with him at the Fest for Beatle fans. He's been following a lot of my shows. And so, Kyle, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me, Ken. I'm excited for a Beatles Preferences show. It's going to be a tough competition, but, I've been practicing. I'm ready to win this thing, and, may the best man win.
Okay. You're not competing with each other. This is just all of you expressing your opinions here on the show, on the material that I'm presenting to you. Okay. And I want to make sure I say this. I have to say this in every Beatles Preferences show. I'm not asking you what the better song or album is. I'm asking you what you prefer to listen to. It's just like you can have a favorite and something you consider the best or better. And they could be two completely different things. It's like the example I've given is Hey Jude or Revolution. You might think Hey Jude is the better song, but you might prefer to listen to Revolution. But the meat and potatoes of this show is explaining why you feel the way you do. And I will warn the three of you, there's one particular one which is aimed specifically at the three of you.
Oh, boy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That'll be the fourth one in the bunch here. So the first example I'm going to give to the three of you is what many consider to be the Beatles' best single, Penny Lane or Strawberry Fields Forever. So which of those two songs do you prefer to listen to? Again, not necessarily what you think is the best of the two or the better. Okay. So why don't we start with Tone?
Okay, it's fairly easy for me. It's Strawberry Fields Forever. It's just such a fascinating song. We managed to talk about the evolution of that song for well over an hour on one of our shows. It's a very important song, and such an interesting song as well. So yeah, it would be Strawberry Fields for me out of those two.
Okay. There's no doubt about it. It's a fascinating process how that whole song came about. Yeah. All the different versions, George Martin, editing the two versions together and all of that. But even if you didn't put the history behind that in your brain, if it was just a visceral thing, what you prefer to listen to, can you kind of erase that from your head and just pick of the two songs which you prefer? Is it still Strawberry Fields?
Yeah, it would still be Strawberry Fields. I think it's also I think it's sonically really interesting with lots of stuff going on, and it's a kind of there's a kind of emotional attachment to the song as well, because the first record that I heard that got me into the Beatles was the Blue album, and it is the first track. So this was the first, when I first put on a Beatles album, this was the first song that I heard. And when I played it for that first time, I couldn't quite believe what I was listening to. And I went back and played it again about 2 or 3 times before I moved on to Penny Lane, Sergeant Pepper, with a little help from friends. And so it goes. It just blew my mind, and it hasn't really stopped doing that, I suppose. So it would be that one, definitely.
Yeah.
Everything else aside, it would be that one.
That song impresses me more with every passing year, the more I listen to it. So much going on in that record. Kyle, how about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, excuse me, this is perfect because we did do a whole show on this, and you mentioned that the 4th one is going to be specifically geared towards us, but this one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to mention, like, we were really proud of this one. We put like a ton of work in and research into it, and like, to me, I think what I didn't really appreciate about Beatles podcast, about making a Beatles podcast, is that it's not like you just have this like huge library of knowledge and then you just tell the world. Like, part of having a Beatles show is also learning and being excited and then sharing it with others. So that was an example for me of like, even like everybody knew about like the splice in the song, and like I had never at least listened to that like really closely and really studied it. So it's really hard to separate that from or like that academic appreciation for the song from a pure taste question like this. With that said, I suppose it's not too early to take out my first hot take of the episode. I think that Penny Lane is probably one of Paul's worst pop songs. I love I love
That's okay.
Paul.
That's okay.
I love Paul doing pop.
Paging Jeff Slate. Get
him in here. No, I love Paul's pop songs. I really think that's his strength. I think he's a pop artist, conductor, all those things. I just think that when you look at this period and how creative everybody was, especially George included, that I think gets forgotten about in this mid-60s period, I think that it just doesn't hold a candle to something like Strawberry Fields. I mean, of course, I'll give it its very, its advances with his lyrics. Having more surrealistic lyrics and everything is definitely huge. But I don't know. I think that it's also just hard because, to me, these are just separate 2 massive poles. Like, Strawberry Fields, I think, is one of John's best works, and Penny Lane, not his worst work, but I think, like, of his super popular stuff, closer to the bottom for me.
I'm still failing to understand why you would consider that one of his worst. Is it because you compare it to Strawberry Fields?
No, I'm comparing it to other of Paul's, like, kind of same works in that same vein. Like, if you consider something like Lady Madonna or Hey Jude or some of those like mammoth, radio hits like that, I just don't think that Penny Lane is as strong. Even like Good Day Sunshine to me is stronger than Penny Lane. But I mean, listen, I always have to have the caveat. I don't have a Beatles podcast because I hate the Beatles. So I will, if Penny Lane is all I listened to for the rest of my life, I would live a happy life.
Okay, I've never heard anyone ever express that. Is that how Jeff Slate feels, Andy? I know Jeff has a very different opinion in a lot of areas, as we all know. Is that how he feels about Penny Lane?
Probably. I'm going to flip the score here, and I'm going to defend Penny Lane because, listen, I understand the historical impact of Strawberry Fields. I love it, and I'll never tire of it. But if you're asking me what I prefer to listen to on a daily basis, I'm going to play Penny Lane before I play Strawberry Fields forever. Again, it's Paul expressing this nostalgia thing, which is pretty current because he's diving back into the past right now with his latest single. And even in his 20s, he was talking about nostalgia. So I love Penny Lane for its kind of just pure pop perfection, 3-minute single. And of course the Liverpool aspect of it too, which of course, I identify with, but, I just, it's easy. I could listen to Penny Lane every day of the week. I know what Kyle's saying with Good Day Sunshine and things like that, but to me, this is top tier McCartney songwriting. I couldn't compare it to like Good Day Sunshine. Oh, I know what you're getting at, Kyle, but this is top tier Paul McCartney for me. And it's one that I could easily prefer. And again, not dismissing Strawberry Fields Forever, because we did a great show on it. And we know that that is like the turning point for the Beatles, really, with the songwriting and the innovation and the production and everything. And I get that. But just for pure pop and listenability, Penny Lane every time.
Okay. Well, one of the things I enjoy about doing this show is that I don't have to give my opinion. All the work goes on you three guys here. So, and it's great to have contrast.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next example will be the albums Cloud Nine or Brainwashed.
Ooh.
Which of those two would you prefer to listen to? Kyle looks like he's struggling, so we'll start with him.
You're an evil man, Ken Michaels. So so you said Brainwashed, right? Cloud
Yeah.
Nine Brainwashed? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I just want to speak on Cloud Nine first and why this is so complicated. I think that George, doesn't get as much credit for being like a very diverse songwriter, right? He can do rock, he can do radio, or like radio pop, he can do spiritual, he can do ballads, and I think he gets often pigeonholed as just like the spiritual guy, right?
Mhm.
But I think that that's actually kind of why I struggle with Cloud Nine, because on one hand, it has genuinely not some of my favorite George songs, not some of my favorite solo Beatles songs, some of my favorite compositions of all time. Someplace Else is a song that I want to be played like at my funeral, like just not for any significance, but just because like guys, like please hear this song, right? Like Just for Today also is in that same vein, but I just think that some of the others on it just have that Jeff
Jeff Lynne.
thank you, podcast brain. Jeff Lynne production on it, the 80s wash on it, which, and trust me, I'm with you, Ken. I'm a press to play supporter my whole life, so I'm not knocking 80s, but just something about this just feels a little bit too like nails on the chalkboard to me, where it's hard for me to listen to the whole thing on like spinning the record side A, side B, because it just jumps around so much like that. So ultimately, I'm going to pick Brainwashed because I think it's more consistent. I think the highs are higher in Cloud Nine, but if you're asking me, which one am I just wanting to like listen to without feeling like I'm getting a jump scare of like, okay, suddenly it's got my mind set on you, like I'm picking Brainwashed.
Okay, so let me just ask you, as far as the pop side of George, you don't think a song like This Is Love is a great pop song?
I do, but as I expressed actually on my last show with you, Ken, I'm kind of afraid of rock music. Anything that excites me too much, it's not really what I reach for music for. I don't I prefer calm music. That's why Just for Today and Someplace Else is just cuts right through to my soul. I have to be really in the right mood to listen to something above like a 80 BPM.
Then I would imagine that Be Here Now must be your favorite George Harrison song.
Oh, it's up there. Yes, for sure. Especially what we got in the 50th anniversary. Yeah.
I'm glad to see a lot more people appreciating Be Here Now, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So you think that Brainwash was more consistent, even though there may be some people, not necessarily me, who look at Brainwash as a hodgepodge of songs through the years, not all done at the same time.
That's definitely its weakness. I think that, yeah.
No, and if I may interject here, I'm going to just give my take on this now, because I'm going to go with Cloud Nine over Brainwash for the pure fact that George didn't live to see Brainwashed out. That was finished by Danny and Jeff Lynne.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's hodgepodge. There's some great tracks on it. Stuck Inside a Cloud, I think, is brilliant. Rising Sun, Any Road, these are great highs. But for me, Cloud 9 is definitely the one I'm going to go to for sure. And I know what you're saying with that 80s power. Like all of a sudden you're listening to something and now something hits you in the face, like with Got My Mind Set on You. I get that, but that was the time, right? And George was back at it again. And he, after 5 years of nothing, he comes out of the gate with a great pop record, then goes on to the Wilburys. So, I mean, that's going to be a high watermark that a lot of people are going to go to for George Harrison music. And to me, like Someplace Else, which we've talked about on our show, is you and I both are in simpatico there, Kyle, that we want that song played at our funeral. It's a great track. This Is Love, as Ken says, awesome. Devil's Radio. I love everything about Cloud 9. So I'm going to prefer that over Brainwashed every day of the week.
Yeah. I just wonder if we're approaching Brainwash from different angles, because sure, I knew that it was a posthumous album, but for you that was like alive and conscious, during that. I mean, you were still fairly young, but like, I'm just putting myself in your shoes. Like, if George was alive today and then passed away, and I just hear that, it's really Danny putting this album together, maybe I would reach it with a little bit more resistance. But for me, I mean, sure, I know the history, but it just feels like another George record. I don't really have the same hesitation.
Yeah, see, I can't look at it that way because it was issued after his death. So I can't equate it and rate it on every other scale of all the other George albums. Sure, it's a George Harrison album, but it was finished by people that after he passed away.
But Danny and Jeff Lynne followed George's instructions. He left explicit instructions for what to do on each song.
Well, if you remember watching the video documentary, Jeff says that, I might have cleaned this up a little bit too much, George, but the songs were too good. Do you remember that interview when the album came out, Ken? And he was like, it might be a bit more polished than you wanted, George, but your songs were too good. Sorry. So they might have taken a little bit of creative liberty in the post-production process with that album. And that's why I have to kind of keep it as a standalone record for me personally.
Okay. Yeah. Tone, your turn.
Okay. So I think this is one of those where I'm going preference over best or better, because I think when I did my George Harrison album ranking, I put Brainwashed above Cloud 9. But if I'm talking about what would I reach for more times than not between the two, it would probably be Cloud 9, because I think that Brainwash is quite a difficult listen. Some of the songs are very sad. Songs that he wrote when he knew, he was dying. Brilliant songs, but they're quite a hard listen. Whereas Cloud 9 is just absolutely joyous all the way through. I mean, obviously, the songs that Carl mentioned, Just for Today and Someplace Else, are more, downbeat. But basically, that album starts with a great bluesy song, the title track, and then it's like pop, 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 and I just love it for that. I just think it's a really strong album, and it was, I remember when it came out, and it was kind of, George, thank you, you're back, you've made a really, really good record, and it was like a kind of a a moment of relief, if you like, when that came out in 1987, and I kind of agree with Andy in, it's very difficult to to put an album that's come out after the artist has died, much like Milk and Honey. It's hard to put it on a par with what has come before, but that doesn't take away from how brilliant Brainwashed is as an album. Really good songs. Any Road, fantastic. What a great lyric. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Absolutely right. but it's a great lyric, and the actual song "Brainwashed" I just love so much because it kind of incorporates every George, everything that George does.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the poppy bit, it's got the Indian influence. It's just great. It's just great. It's got all those different Georges. It's got the humorous George where, you know, the lyrics about whatever it was with my great aunt that was done by the mob or something like that.
Yeah. They even got my grandma when she was working for the mob.
Working for the mob. Yeah. So it's got every, you know, it's got every little sinew of George in that one song, and I love it for that. But I would still choose Cloud Nine probably more often than not to listen to, just because it's just so joyous, really.
Well, like I said, part of the fun of doing this is that these aren't necessarily easy decisions to make. But, you know, as someone who has said many times that the song itself is more important than the production, you still have to admit that part of the reason why Cloud Nine was successful was because of Jeff Lynne's production. Much the same way that without Phil Spector on All Things Must Pass, it would have sounded much different. Maybe today people might have preferred less Phil Spector or no Phil Spector or no Jeff Lynne. A lot of people have written to me wishing that they could hear Cloud Nine without the Jeff Lynne production. That might make a very interesting, you know, box set further on down the road if they can manage to do something like that.
You can count me in that camp for sure.
Okay, here's our third one. John Lennon's I'm Losing You. Double fantasy version, Cheap Trick version.
Good one. Anybody want to jump at that one first?
No.
I have to abstain. I don't know the reference.
You don't know the Cheap Trick version?
I think I've probably heard it mentioned, but I haven't listened to it.
Okay. Well, it's on the John Lennon anthology release.
Yeah.
Oh, the one behind you and or no? Or is
No,
it the cloud?
the cloud one.
Cloud one?
The blue cube.
It's up there next to
one.
Press to Play.
Yeah, the one that.
Yeah.
It's on top of George Eric, the best of George.
Yes.
Apple years.
That's
The
Dark
Apple.
Horse.
Is it the Apple? Oh, yeah, the Dark Horse years. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tone.
Okay, I think I do prefer the finished version on Double Fantasy, but I really like the Cheap Trick one. It's more rocky.
Yeah.
It's more rocky, but it's more rough. I think I prefer the finished version. I don't really know what to say about it without comparing, you know, reminding myself of them both. But I'm glad that we've got that version, the Cheap Trick version in that box set, because it might have got lost along the way, and it seems like some of the others may have got lost. We'll have to wait until 2030 when the double fantasy / Milk and Honey ultimate mixes comes out, and hopefully they've got some more of the Cheap Trick recordings. But I guess they must have, if they found that one. There must be more. There must be
also I'm Moving On.
Right.
They did a version
of I'm Moving On with Yoko, of course.
Yeah.
I'll agree with Tone too. I love the rockier version what we heard on the anthology, and that was a big revelation, Ken, if you remember when that came out in '98. To hear that and you're like, wow, this is Cheap Trick doing I'm Losing You. And it was good, but I agree with Tone. I do like the polished slickness of I'm Losing You on the proper record, segueing right into I'm Moving On. And how it fades out and it goes right into Yoko's song on there. I do like that polished version a little bit better. And I feel bad for the Cheap Trick guys because they kind of, if you remember reading it, like they were so amped to be a part of a John Lennon recording session, and then they just kind of get elbowed, and now they're just left to not to be on there, and it's a shame. It is, it really is.
Yeah.
From
what I've heard, and I don't know if it's necessarily true, but Yoko kind of took the attitude of who are these guys? That they're going to benefit on being John's, forgetting, of course, that they were already a big name at that point.
And 1980, they were huge. Yeah. So I mean, I enjoy both, but I'll go with the polished version on the album better for me personally.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
for
seek it
those of
out.
you that
Oh,
don't
sorry.
know, Rick Nielsen was on it and Bunny Carlos was on it, not the
Yep.
entire band.
And I think too, didn't they there was a video that they did for that to
Yes.
promote that when it came,
Right.
when the anthology came out in '98, those guys did a video of it.
Right. It was like an animated with drawings on it.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely the one that Cheap Trick was on was rockier. And I remember maybe John said it that they were going for more of a Plastic Ono Band feel on that version. So, but I'm with the two of you. I love the version on Double Fantasy so much, and I don't mind slickness.
No.
If it's done really well.
No.
I'm just curious if that was was that more just Yoko saying you're not going to be on that, or Jack Douglas had influence? Because
Yeah, I was wondering whether it was Jack Douglas's decision because he was the producer,
right,
or co-producer. But that's where those decisions are usually made. But yeah, I do prefer that song with a bit of production on it because I think his Jack Douglas's production on that record is really good. It's probably John's best sounding album. I mean, obviously that is because it was made in 1980 where recording techniques were much better, but it is a great sounding record.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, that goes all the way back to a demo called Stranger's Room, right? He just called it Stranger's Room that he just did on a piano demo by himself, probably in that house husband year period, and he just kind of just hammered it out as a piano demo called Stranger's Room, which became I'm Losing You.
Well, some of the songs that we were exposed to through the Lost Lennon tapes, some of the songs that ended up on Double Fantasy were a few years in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had different lyrics, maybe the same melody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'll find it's a really interesting thing that if you go to a lot of John's stuff, like what was it? One of the bonus tracks on the Mind Game CD when it came out in the 2000s. At the very end, you're going to hear John sing the part that he sang later in Steel and Glass. The na 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 na. But he used it later on. So bits and pieces from previous songs can end up in later songs from John.
Yeah, things like "Child of Nature" turn out to be "Jealous Guy."
Right,
3 years later or whatever.
I'm glad he didn't waste that melody.
No.
Okay, so this is the fourth one. This is targeted to the three of you.
Oh boy.
Okay.
I wonder if Andy's head is going to explode. Back on My Feet or Flying to My Home?
Oh, God.
It's not exploding. Oh, my God. He's handling this very calmly.
Wait, why is this targeted for us?
Because of the, two legs and the McCartney,
Back on My Feet.
And I think, you're huge McCartney fans, not just, you love the other Beatles too.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think, since you love to talk about Paul so much through two legs, and no doubt the two of you are as well, and you love bonus tracks and all that and B-sides. Sure. So between these two songs, which would you pick?
So I thought you were going to pick, you were going to ask us to pick which part of the Uncle Albert medley.
That's what I thought he was going to ask too, Kyle.
Or like the mashup.
Because of Hands Across the Water.
Yeah. I can knock this one out of the park real quickly. For me, it's Back on My Feet, hands down. When I first discovered it when I was about 16, right around the time when Flaming Pie came out, I got it as an import from a Long Island record store called Mr. Cheapo's.
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, that's where I bought it from him. I didn't know it because at the time it was pre-internet, and I'm like, "What is this Back on My Feet that I keep hearing about?" And long ago,
it's in your audio.
What's that?
I was losing your audio, or maybe I wasn't hearing it in the headphones. But you can repeat what you just said.
Yeah, I just said I discovered it. I discovered it when I was 16 in 1997, right around the time Flaming Pie came out, and researching 12-inch singles on like websites, and I'm like, how this never came out in America? What is this? I don't really know it. So it was, to me, it was a 1-2 punch, and personally, it was just a song about optimism and joy, and and kind of just really a song that really helped me through my adolescent years to just be a better person and love music and just be who I was at the time,
Mhm.
and kind of wore it as a badge of courage, that song, Back on My Feet. I just, the optimism of that song still resonates with me to this day, almost 30 years later. So and I love flying. I like Flying to My Home, but Back on My Feet, for me personally, is just something that is just ingrained in my soul. So that's an easy one.
Okay. Were you an Elvis Costello fan at that point?
Other than
Did it
like,
matter?
it didn't matter.
Okay.
It didn't matter at all to me. And of course, then hearing the demo that we got as the download only when Flowers in the Dirt came out in 2017 on the archive, to hear the embryonic stage of that song develop, and then to hear what Costello added to it, made me appreciate what Elvis brought to the song,
Uh-huh.
because Paul had the kind of the bare bones of it down. How many days will the, and then you could hear what Elvis brought to it, gave me much more of an appreciation for it. But yeah, that's to me, that's a top 10er all time for me. So
Oh, okay. All right. Tone.
Do I have to choose?
Yes.
I love them both. I love them both. But the last show that you asked me on, which was who was the best collaborator after John Lennon for Paul McCartney, which I couldn't make. 100% it would have been Elvis Costello for me.
Mm-hmm.
Love Elvis and loved him right from the word go. Bought his first album, My Aim Is True, and all the way up to to the 80s. I don't know. Oh, they're both great. They're both great. I'm trying to work it out. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with Flying to My Home. Not for any particular reason. I just think they're both great. They're both great. I'm just giving an opposite pick. So it kind of leaves Kyle to do the decider.
leave it up to the hand.
I haven't really got a good reason. I love them. I love them both. I love them both.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a question of which one you like more. It's just which one you prefer to listen to.
Yeah.
If you had 5 minutes right now free and you could pick between the two, which would you pick?
Flying to My Home.
Okay.
Even with that whiny voice in the chorus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That song really,
home, sweet babe.
first time I heard Flying to My Home, I thought this is like a Ram song. It really
Yeah.
has a Ram vibe to it, kind of like a Smile Away, maybe
Yeah.
kind of goofy in
Yes,
that way.
I could definitely.
Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah, so this is again for me a tough pick. I want to start out by saying that I think that my favorite Beatles solo thing to explore is Paul in the 80s. I think out of everybody. I mean, everybody has like their own pockets, whether it's like whole decades or just certain, years or months that you can like explore. But I don't think that Paul will ever get the credit he deserves for his work in the 80s.
Here,
As much
here.
as I would like to hope that he would, I think it's very natural that Wings is getting a second look with the documentary and the book. Oh, there you go.
Hmm.
Very nice.
Get excited, Carl. It's
Oh
coming.
boy.
Oh, and a Beatly Tone video coming?
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. I would love this if we get, Yvonne's the One comes out. I mean, come on. I mean, I've said this before on your show, Ken, but I feel like the 80s is almost like Paul's second Sgt. Pepper period, but stretched out over a decade. And then we have that with Return to Pepperland. Like, he was clearly on his mind
Mhm.
that he's leaning into his domesticity. He's not going on the road anymore. He has his studio, and he takes the studio as more of an art than ever. And I'm just saying that as opposed to more of like the arena rock type stuff of the 70s, which of course is diverse in its own right. But I feel like the 80s is where his music becomes complicated in a very like interesting production way. And that you can kind of, just like how Ram rewards you with listening through headphones, that's what all of the 80s is to me. So just want to preface by saying that this is a Sophie's choice with that. But for me, I'm gonna go with Flying to My Home too. I love Back on My Feet. I love the melody. I love the message, but I think I love Flying Home to My Home mainly for like the weirdness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I have another emotional attachment to it where I was very lucky, thanks to all of you, that I got to fall in love with the Beatles through you guys, where on one hand, I'm listening to the music, but then I'm also listening to podcasts about the music, and then the podcasters get tipped me off to these, hidden little B-sides and more things to listen to. And you listen to those and you're like, that is amazing. I would have never found this. Flying to My Home is one of those examples where Alan Kozin just says, I think you guys might have been talking about B-sides or something, and he just says, he's doing this strange voice he never does again. Why does he choose this voice here? And I listened to it, I'm just obsessed with it. But yeah, I definitely see the Ram comparison. I was actually just texting the guys the other day that I feel like in Ram, Paul is almost doing a different impression every song, but almost like how Sgt. Pepper, he wants to be a new band. It's in the same attempt at reinvention. He's trying to be like a different actor every time. Like Monkberry Moon Delight sounds nothing like Heart of the Country, which sounds nothing like Backseat of My Car. Like this could be a freaking compilation album. These are all such different artists,
different characters.
Yeah. And I love that Flying to My Home is in the same vein.
It is. It absolutely is. That's an astute observation. It could have been on Ram. It really could have been.
Overall, do you prefer the 80s over the 70s for Paul?
Can.
This is a preferences show,
This is a preferences show.
I
I think it's one of those dances of saying like, yes, I think the output in the 70s is probably more impressive and important, but I think I might prefer the 80s. I don't know, just because it's different. I mean, for me, I love like the studio as the instrument. I think that the Wings, like the energy, the melodies, the harmonies, don't even get me started on the harmonies, are so impressive. But I don't know, sometimes I'm a little bit more in the mood to listen to Pipes of Peace than even Band on the Run. I don't know. So maybe some of it's a little bit of fatigue. You can't really take that out of the equation entirely. But I just think that where a lot of artists can try and phone it in and say, hey, what does the public want? Okay, I'll try and do that again. How did my last record succeed? Okay, I'll do that again. Paul was constantly pushing the boundary. He was trying to stay with the times. And I think that's what makes him so interesting to this day.
Yeah. Depends on the day of the week, but I think generally, the 70s period is so well documented, and as Kyle said, Band on the Run, and we don't get tired. We love those albums, but for the experimental stuff and the studio and kind of hearing all those things that Paul went through in the 80s and just kind of locking himself in his studio, which he had just built at the time, to do things like Press to Play and all that kind of stuff. There is definitely much more of an interesting dive in the 80s material than the 70s. Not that the 70s is bad. Of course we love it, and we love every Wings album and everything else like that, and the singles and Mull of Kintyre, even though Tony can't stand it. But I would generally prefer the 80s more than the 70s. Today. Tomorrow I might flip.
Specifically Pizza and Fairy Tales.
Yes.
Well, that makes a big difference. All those songs with Phil Ramone that he worked on, and the few with David Foster.
Correct.
He was really very prolific at that time.
He was.
And I really think the 80s was more interesting. It's tough to say if it was a better decade.
Yeah.
But, three of my favorite all-time McCartney albums are in the 80s. Tug of War, Press to Play, and Flowers in the Dirt.
There you go.
But so many people are locked into him in the 70s as if, he hasn't done anything all that good since then.
Right.
And, they just have to hopefully learn, pick up the albums, go on YouTube, listen to them. Does it even cost you anything?
Nope.
Watch the press video.
Hey, I always have Press to Play behind me.
Tone, what say you?
Yes.
I didn't know if this was actually a genuine question that was on your list, Ken.
It wasn't.
it just came out of what Carl said. 70s or 80s. Well, I always think that one of the key to preferences is if you're choosing between two things, you'll probably always pick the thing that you listened to the longest ago rather than something that you listened to more recently. But I think this I do think the 80s are more interesting because we play the 70s stuff so much and we're so familiar with it. And I'm doing this thing at the moment on 12-inch singles, Paul McCartney's 12-inch singles, and there's all this stuff that's locked away on these these 12-inch singles that have never seen the light of day yet. They're still exclusive, and I'm kind of uncovering that while making this video, and it's really interesting. If you ask me what music was better, I'd say it was the stuff from the 70s, definitely. But at the moment, I'm into my 80s, Macca, and that's it.
Kyle's happy.
Okay. I think he became more of his own as an artist. I think, something, since we mentioned Jeff Slate, he once said something to me that I found to be really interesting, that Paul has two personalities in a way, that the material that he writes for a band is different than the material he writes for himself. Or maybe he's thinking this might work in a stage show or something, or a concert, and I never really thought about that all that much. I don't know if you all agree with that, but I just think that he was much more experimental on his own after Wings, whereas with Wings, he had to think about what worked for the group, not just for himself.
Well, but you can argue that he took that approach with the material on Flowers in the Dirt because he was preparing. He wanted to go out on tour with a band. So,
right.
You can take that same approach that a lot of those songs are suited as a band to go out on the road.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it holds true apart from on the songs. On the albums where it's only him, because even though when he's doing something like Flowers in the Dirt or Press to Play, he's not doing it for a band. He's doing it for he's still using his session musicians, and that's no different to writing for Wings or writing for Paul McCartney with some other musicians on it. But if you're talking about writing for McCartney 1, McCartney 2, McCartney 3, then it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. But even when it's Press to Play, he's still kind of writing either for himself or for a band, because he's using a band on it, even though they're not a named band. They're a band of musicians. It's not just him.
In the case of Flowers in the Dirt and then Off the Ground, that was the band he toured with.
Right.
He did. But they were like, his current band, they're my band. They're not a band called da-da. They're just they're just my band.
Okay. So you see a difference between Wings and the other bands that he's had, including the one from the 2000s on.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Last one.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you're going to like me for including this. Happy Christmas. Wonderful Christmas time. Have you done a show on this already, Andy?
No.
That's a great topic.
Oof.
Two great songs in their own way. Let's start with Kyle.
Agreed that they're both great songs. I feel like I have to go with Happy Christmas, and to me it's not close. I think, I love Wonderful Christmas Time. I love the video. I love that it's kind of like a Wings song in disguise, but I just feel like the chorus in Happy Christmas is just so anthemic, and I generally don't love political songs. I mean, unless but I think this is just an exception because the melody is just so like soaring, and I love the children's choir in it and everything, and it's just so John to say, hey, we are going to take a like capitalist invention called Christmas and then like sneak in like an anti-capitalist, message in, or anti-war into it. So I mean, whether or not you believe in or agree with John's views, it's just you have to see it's quintessentially John to do that. Like he was the best at like bumper sticker politics, right? Like he's not trying to make anything complicated. He's like, what's something I can put on, in 3 words. Yeah, war is over, baby. There you go. If you want it. So, and also again, it's just funny that we didn't expect these questions, but it seems like everything has like a personal attachment to it. When I got the Zoetrope, or when I picked up the Zoetrope from what's it called, from last Christmas, and I've never been into the Zoetropes, but I didn't have this one, and the John's vocal was just crystal clear. I mean, I feel funny recycling one of my lines from our podcast, but I said that you could smell the cigarettes on his breath. That's how that's how clear his vocal was. And so I think that it's just funny the way that you can listen to a song over and over, and especially like that when you hear it in the supermarket. But then it's just once you hear it in like a certain way, it just like unlocks something. And so that one's definitely my preference.
Okay, very good. Tone, let's go with you.
Yeah, definitely Happy Christmas, War is Over for me. Just because they're both great. They're both great, but I like this one more because it's got that message. The message is important, and there's no better way of wrapping up a message to get it through than to put it on a really catchy melody. So it's in people's heads. And not that Wonderful Christmas Time is not it's not catchy. But I think Happy Christmas, War is Over. 100%.
Okay. So again, we're saying preferences, not what you think is the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do prefer it. Like them both, but I do prefer Happy Christmas.
Okay. Andy has the final word.
Andy's taking the Switzerland point of view on this, and I'm not going to choose one or the other. How about that for a preference?
That's not acceptable.
It is. It is. I'm not picking one or the other because they are both individually great works of art with both have different kind of messages. As Kyle and Tone have both pointed out, the message of War is Over is universal, and it's a beautiful song. And I love the Zoetrope that, of course, Simon Hilton sent to all of us, which thank you, Simon, for that. I cannot pick one over the other because I love both of them equally. And that is the God's honest truth. Having seen and being privileged to see Paul perform Wonderful Christmas Time, not once, but twice in Manchester, England, with the kids choir coming on stage, and seeing that up close and personal, and then the universal message of War is Over and the beauty of that song. I'm not picking one. They are both equally awesome, and I'm sticking to it. And that's just going to have to suffice for this show.
Andy,
well.
If you want to choose, I want to be Santa Claus. Just say it. We'll back you, buddy. It's okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
You know what you call me? You call me a boring old fart, but I'm not picking one.
You're saying that they're both works of art. So is Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, but you picked one there.
I did, but this because everybody loves to just pit these two songs together, and put them against each other. Oh, Paul's is such crap, and John's just so important, and I'm not going there with these two Christmas songs. I'm just not touching it with a barge pole.
All
right. Well, to me,
they're both better than Stop the Cavalry. Do you know that? Do you know that one? I don't know if that was a hit. Maybe it wasn't a hit in America.
I'm surprised you didn't throw Ding Dong in there, Ken.
To me, that's not a Christmas song. That's a New Year's song. That's how
True.
I've always looked at it.
Yeah.
It's a holiday song.
Right.
Okay. But to me, it's always, it represents how great John and Paul are, that there's such sharp contrast between the two of them.
Yes.
Two
Yeah.
completely different songs. It's like one guy wrote Good Day Sunshine, the other one wrote Rain.
Yeah.
That's how they are. Um,
Both.
okay. So before we go, why don't you tell the folks what's going on with the podcast? Any new shows in the pipeline?
Yeah, we're actually recording one today about Paul's latest announcement and new single, "Days We Left Behind." So that'll be on our channel very soon. Kyle Tone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we got more.
Oh, we're just talking about hands, aren't we? We're just talking about hands. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to dissect that song and talk about it. So
Yeah, lyrical breakdown, and we've got some nice stuff in the pipeline. We've got a 1-year anniversary celebration coming up, so stay tuned for that. We might have some bonus content on there. Two Legs has been very busy, as you can tell, with the McCartney news, and we had recaps from our friend Joan Borelli, and we announced the album, and so that's all that activity over on Two Legs, and on my own channel, Backwards Traveler. I always do some cool unboxings and things like that, so that's all available on there too.
I was going to say I was surprised that I didn't see the three of you in Los Angeles right now. I thought this would be live from Los Angeles.
I wish.
Yeah. And we
But,
did some great shows earlier in the year too. We did we celebrated George's birthday by ranking the Beatles songs that he wrote. I feel like a lot of times we want to just rank his solo efforts, but that was super fun to go through his output there and really understand his development and what he's really kind of is becoming his legacy with these Beatles songs that he wrote. We covered the Wings documentary that was very good, and of
so
course,
you liked Men on the Run?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. If you want to talk hot takes, I likened it. I compared it to a PBS documentary, which people got very upset over. And I stand by that, man. I mean, but we don't have to go back into the whole thing. I love PBS, but whatever. But if you have actually, if you're still listening and you're hearing of us for the first time, of course we should direct you back to our unofficial first show that we did a year ago this time on Two Legs, where we did a 6.5-hour marathon live podcast, and we made an ultimate playlist of 109 Paul songs from his entire career. We divided his life into different eras, and we made a 10-song playlist for each era, and a podcast was born that day.
It was. That was the first unofficial launch of Hands Across the Water on Two Legs, and that was just about a year ago. And that's when we decided, let's just make our own channel and our own podcast. And
this is fun. Let's form a band.
That's right. That's right. We did, and it's been great. A year to get together and do shows with you guys, and just a lot of fun. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. How did you decide 109 songs?
I don't.
How did we get playlists with 10 songs and then we ended up with 109, not 110?
No, I must have got the number. It must be like 111 or something. Maybe it was like 11 eras, 10. No, shoot. And then we did a bonus, I think.
Right, so and we had a guest on. We had a guest on for every era.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, people. All right, it's a year ago, but the playlist is still out there, so
certainly is.
Okay. So I know you've already talked about it on your podcast, but just overall, what you liked about Men on the Run? Because we had our own take on things we said today. We also did a George Harrison special, by the way, of our top 10 solo George Harrison songs. So you had yours, we had our. Yep. So what was it about Men on the Run that you liked?
Who wants to start?
I mean, I liked I like the fact that there was so much John included in this, because I felt that this film was a kind of a story of or two love stories, a love story with John, a love story with Linda, and I thought it was covered really well. great footage, quite a lot that we hadn't seen before as well. A little bit of unreleased music. I just thought it was it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it was a really, really good documentary, I thought. And probably the best one that we've had on Paul's, I wouldn't say solo career, but the 70s.
Yeah.
Paul in the 70s. I don't think there's anything out there that's any better than that as far as filmmaking goes at the moment. And just really, really enjoyed it without being over critical about this, that, and the other. Just enjoyed it for what it was. I like the fact that there were no talking heads distracting us from the footage. So we just got their comments in text, which was absolutely fine. And I thought that was a good move. And I thought it was great. Andy.
Yeah, I do too. Agree on all those points. The no talking heads, and this the stockpiling of home video footage that was just sitting in the archives that Paul allowed Morgan Neville and his team, also with Adrian Sinclair's help, as he worked on the film too as a research assistant. Loved it. I just thought it was such an intimate look. And some of it was recycled audio from Wingspan, but a lot of it, there was a decent amount of audio from Paul now. And I thought it told a story really from 1969 to like 1980, really. And it was just about himself. It wasn't about Wings, which is what a lot of people were anticipating, because of the whole Wings stuff. But this was totally a different project and just an intimate look at him and his life with Linda and that journey of them together, with Wings kind of flying in and being a part of that journey, and it ending and really culminating with John. And I thought it was a wonderful film, and it's probably going to be the kind of bona fide moment in time of that snapshot of Paul's life. What I'd like to see now is the same treatment happen to his 80s career, and let's have a documentary on his 1980s life.
Right.
And what he went through. It's so well told now, the Wings period and the solo stuff. But now can we have that nice forensic kind of study into Paul's 1980s catalog of stuff and what he went through and what's behind the scenes and what's sitting in the vaults and recording sessions and videos and things like that. Let's have that be told in a 2-hour documentary. That would be fascinating.
Okay, I have some comments bouncing off of that, but I'm going to let Kyle finish.
Okay. Talking about preferences, I 10 times out of 10 will pick up 1-to-1 over Man on the Run, because as far as documentaries go, I just feel like unless you're going to do like a Ken Burns style, 10 episode thing where each thing is like 2 hours, it's like you got to pick a specific moment in time and dive into that. I think that's what deserves that's what fits a 2-hour treatment, right? Cramming a decade into 2 hours is going to leave people disappointed. And so I think that for me, it was kind of doomed from the start. I wish it was, similar to 1-to-1. It would have been so sick if it was just Wings Over America. You have the first 10 minutes as a preamble as Beatles break up, okay, now Wings, then you have the thing, and then spend an hour and a half on whatever footage you have from rock show and recording Wings at the Speed of Sounds in the middle of the tour, spend time on the peak of Wings. To me, that would have been a more interesting focus rather than this broad span. With that said, that's not the documentary we got, okay? So I can't really criticize something that is make-believe. Considering the documentary we got, I did really like it, because I think that what keeps me coming back to studying Paul is Paul the person. That you have this savant, this genius musician, pop artist as Paul, but he's also just a man that doesn't really always know what the next step is. That he's just producing what comes to him. He's not thinking so deeply about what is going to do this or that, or what lever can I pull. And so I think that what this did really well, and what 1-to-1 kind of did not, is that it explored his psyche. I think the most important snapshot of that if you can sum up the whole documentary in one still, it's the present day shot of the waves hitting the the shore in Scotland. Because to me, that's, I don't know, it's just something profound about the passage of time now and then, so to speak. And this whole thing is just Paul dealing with the breakup of the Beatles. He's in his early 30s. He's considered old at the time, and he's like, "No, I can still do it." And he does it, and then he proves them all wrong. And then he's at his late 30s, and he's like, "I'm kind of done with this." And he's struggling and dealing with all that. And I think that they communicated the internal struggles really well. And with, again, in all the fashions that we prefer of no talking heads, archival footage, some new material.
But you still prefer 1-to-1, even having.
I mean, it's so much more fun. Are you kidding me? There was not one moment in our theater when we were watching it in New York that they were laughing their asses off like they were with all the clips with the phone calls with the flies. Like, I still think come on, that was funny.
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
so I got to say, I'm with you on this, Kyle. I mean, exploring the psyche of Paul McCartney is one of the bonuses of this movie. But to say this is a forensic study, we've never had a forensic study of Wings. I mean, they talk about Wings, and I was expecting a documentary on Wings. Not that they would have excluded the Beatles breaking up and Paul's dealing with it. You have to do that. But if you're talking about the 70s, with the exception of the McCartney album and Ram, you're talking about Wings. And this was a band that Paul really tried to establish as a group in his own way, whether he succeeded or not. And I want to know more and more about what happened in the studio, what each band member contributed. You don't learn that. You don't learn that in Wingspan.
That's not what this film was going to be.
Okay, well then, when are we ever going to get anything on Wings?
Right.
Paul is about to turn 84 years old. You have several members of Wings that have passed away. And I've interviewed Denny Seiwell, Lawrence Juber, Steve Holley, Denny Lane. I've learned a lot from the interviews that I've done with them. None of that information of any kind that they revealed to me about those years are anywhere in Men on the Run. So for someone like Paul, who went out of his way to make sure that Denny Lane sang 5 songs on the Wings Over America tour, that Denny co-wrote 5 songs with him on London Town, plus Mull of Kintyre, that Jimmy McCulloch got to do Medicine Jar live, that Wings at the Speed of Sound had a lead vocalist on, each member of the group. He had interviews where other members got to talk, so it wasn't just him, or it wasn't just Paul and Linda. He did try to establish Wings as a group. And you yourself just said, or Tone did, there's a difference between Wings and the band that he's had from the 2000s on, and on the records themselves, he went from Paul McCartney and Wings to just Wings. That doesn't just happen. That's a very conscious decision. None of that was tackled, really, in this movie. There's some things that I really loved a lot. I love the different version, or the vocals that you heard on Long Haired Lady was really cool.
Yep.
You Are My Sunshine at the end. When Paul was very honest and frank about certain things, like when he was busted in Japan, he said, "What an idiot."
Right.
For him to call himself an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, in his own film, to be that honest, but
saying.
Also to learn in recent years, especially with the Wings book too, how towards the end of Wings, that Paul was running out of steam and he was losing interest. And he didn't think much of the last lineup, which is crazy.
Which is unfortunate. It really is.
I mean, I learned that, but I didn't learn that much from this movie. I know it's more geared towards a casual fan, but I think that there are times when you have to address the people in this world who have been following him, buying all of his records, and studying him, and yes, there's the mainstream public, and they matter very much too. I'm not denying that. There's a way that you can balance the two. There's some great moments in the movie. There's no doubt about it. But I just didn't feel like I learned anything. And I would like for there to be something forensic on Wings, where you have a lot of interview clips with all the members, including the ones that have passed away. And yes, we did have Henry in there. And well, Jimmy only talked about, what was it? It was just a joking thing that they said about his name or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. You know, great that they even had Jeff Britton in there.
You're right.
Okay. So it has its moments, but I want to learn about the band.
I just think that's what the legacy books are going to be. I don't think that's ever going to be an MPL sanctioned documentary.
Well, that says something if it's not that important to Paul.
I think we kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a Wings documentary when it was called Man on the Run rather than Band on the Run. They would, I mean, they would, if it had been about Wings, they would have absolutely nailed it as Band on the Run. But Man on the Run, it's about Paul. It's not about the band.
Right.
They're part of Paul's 70s, but it's not a focus for this film.
I think Paul, if you look at the Wings book, that's probably Paul's like, okay, you want more Wings info? You want more tidbits from, more mean potatoes on this period? Go look at my Wings book. There's more info in there, but the film is completely different. So
I still think there should be a film where you really examine what all the members did and what they brought to the table. I've said this on things we said today. When it comes to Little Lamb Dragonfly, Denny Sywell has spoken about how he added vocal parts to the song, like the call and answer part of the song. I like learning that. I like learning on a song like To You from Back to the Egg that Lawrence and Paul were playing around with those weird sounds on a harmonizer or whatever. That was their idea together to do that. That makes them more of a band, more collaborators. I'm sure there's a lot of other examples that they could talk about, especially Paul writing with Denny Lane. You don't really hear about that. So I think that's really a shame. There should be a film that really examines Wings, because they were, and a lot of people don't realize this, between singles and albums, probably the number 3 act of the 70s.
Kyle, let's make the film.
I mean, someone's got to do it. I mean, yeah, I feel like what the tension here is like, this film seems to be like reinforcing what the people already think about Wings, that it was Paul, and maybe adding some new information. What you're wanting is a kind of upheaval of the common narrative and adding something genuinely new. Right. And I want that too, but I don't think that, Amazon Studios is willing to take that marketing challenge,
But the final call comes from Paul.
Yep.
If he wanted this to be really an exhaustive study of Wings, he could have had it that way.
He could have.
He's the boss.
Last we checked, but
I suppose.
Okay. So I just want to say to everybody watching this that my radio show on the Beatles, Every Little Thing, is now on the 24/7 Beatles-A-Rama channel. And they're taking some of my videos from Ken Michaels Radio and putting it on their channel. Most likely this one will be on there soon. So you're also on Beatles-A-Rama.
Hi, Beatles-A-Rama.
And if you want to check out the website, go to Beatles-A-Rama, RAMA.com. Look for this video, and my radio show, Every Little Thing, is on Sundays at 12 noon Eastern Time. Kyle, I just want to say, because I know you have a wedding coming up in June, I'd like to impart with you some sage wisdom.
Sure.
Take note.
From my mentor, really everyone's mentor, Ralph Crandon, who said, on your wedding day, you must say 2 things. 1, I do. 2, I'm the boss. Remember that.
Okay.
Well, that'll be a quick marriage. Yeah.
And you'll have a very successful marriage there. Okay.
We'll remind you of that. Tony and I will remind you of that.
Oh my god! Although you did on your radio show, Ken, you did tell us, you gave me the tip to use "Hand in Hand" as our wedding song. And
What other song is there?
Right.
yeah,
You
she's on
mentioned
board.
There's going to be 2 hands now,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful song to boot.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Come
that'll
on.
be
What
it.
more do you want? He practically
Thanks to
wrote
you.
it for you.
Way back in
Thanks.
2018, he was thinking of you.
That's right.
You and Phoebes.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm going to include, of course, your YouTube channel, 4 Hands Across the Water, 2 Legs, whatever you want me to put on there. And thank you guys for doing this. I hope you enjoyed it.
We
Thank
did.
you, Ken. We did very
Thanks,
much.
Ken.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
man.
inviting us.
Okay. And for all of you, please subscribe to this channel and all of our channels for that matter. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. As Paul would say, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Some Forever is the brand new book in the John Lennon series, telling the complete story of 1965. In this intimate, meticulously researched book, Lennon's music, his dreams, and his enduring impact collide with the person behind the myth. Some Forever unlocks the moment that changed rock and the world forever. Whether you're a longtime fan or discovering Lennon anew, Some Forever invites you to see the man, the music, and the meaning that still resonates today. From acclaimed author Jude Sutherland Kessler comes Some Forever, a revealing new portrait of John Lennon that goes beyond the headlines. In this intimate, meticulously researched book, Lennon's music, his dreams, and his enduring impact collide with the person behind the myth. Some Forever unlocks the moment that changed rock and the world forever. Whether you're a longtime fan or discovering Lennon anew, Some Forever invites you to see the man, the music, and the meaning that still resonates today. Some Forever by Jude Sutherland Kessler, available at johnlennonseries.com. It's the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. It's a Beatles fan's paradise. It's Beatles-A-Rama. Tune in.